Welcome to this episode of the podcast, the Growthcast. I'm joined here with Dallas Pruitt, and we are here for another extended cut weekly review where we review Dallas's episodes that he's dropped this past week. We love doing these episodes. We love pulling out the actionable items from these episodes to be able to apply these things that Dallas is teaching us in our day-to-day lives to help us become our best self. But let's just dive right in. Dallas, is there any announcements before we get started?
My only announcement is we have a guest that's going to be coming onto the podcast here in the near future that I'm super excited about. He's actually a childhood friend of mine, and he just so happens to also be a 6-time world champion bronc rider of all things, right, to this network. He's a professional cowboy, and he is basically the Michael Jordan of professional rodeo, and he's also an entrepreneur. Successful businessman. He just started a company that he and his brother are contracting out themselves, their buddies, their horses for Western films and just films in general. He's very creative, on top of being an elite athlete and just awesome human being with an unbelievable mindset. He's also an entrepreneur, and I'm just excited to have him on. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. As far as mindset goes, man, he's one of the best. He is a winner through and through, and I'm not talking just in terms of accolades. He's a stud. So I'm excited. Yes.
Also very excited about that. That's going to be a super powerful
you might be
episode.
In town
I may be in town for it in Utah. I'm hoping so I can be a part of that.
We'll get you on a bowl or something.
I don't know about that. Jeez Louise. But if that's what we have to do, to get him on the podcast, I will get on a bowl. I will. Yes. I'll do it.
All right. Well, I'm going to make sure I have a camera.
All right. Deal. Awesome. Yeah. Well, let's dive in here. Monday, Dallas, you talked about emphasizing development and putting an emphasis on the development rather than the outcome. Loved this episode. It was almost a little bit of, and you kind of talked a little bit about this in our mindset
like foreshadowing, huh?
Yeah.
Foreshadowing for the mindset monthly call that was going to happen later that day.
Yes. Go ahead now.
By design, right? By design.
Of course.
But there was a specific quote from Amy Borman on a podcast I was listening to. It's about the yips. And if you know what the yips are in sports, it's where you just like magically lose your ability to do something that you've done for a long time. And so they were talking about Simone Biles and how she got the twisties during the Olympics. If anybody watched, just lost control, right? Something happens mentally where you just lose control of something that you've had so much control over for such a long period of time. And it's a pretty deep cognitive issue that takes a lot of work. And it was really cool to hear how she worked through that. But what was cooler, in my opinion, was Amy Borman's perspective on this high-level gymnastics coach who's worked with tons and tons of athletes, the best. Simone Biles is the best at what she does, right? And she said that within her coaching philosophy, her mantra is, results matter, but not ever at the expense of development. Development is first and foremost. And it was a reiteration of that principle for all of us, growing our businesses and living our best lives or striving to live our best lives and grow our best businesses. It's such a results-based mental process for so many people, right? Like we use metrics and we track progress and gauge progress with numbers and specific data points. And like we tend to hone in on that, hyper focus on it. And if we're not careful, that really clouds our abilities to become our best self. Totally. Because we're so focused on results and we're not focused on learning and developing and becoming the best version of us in that process in the day-to-day. So it was just an invite to, recenter on development every day, focus on development, and just, nobody's going to put more, you think about yourself, Jax, like nobody puts more pressure on you than you, right? Like,
no. Yeah.
I talk to you,
and
I mean, majority of our conversations revolve around you being hard on yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
And vice versa. Me, I come off an awesome speaking engagement, and you gave me a great compliment, dude. And I didn't even say thank you. because I was judging myself.
Yeah. You're caught up being hard on yourself.
I didn't even say thank you.
Yeah.
And that's an actionable in and of itself. It's like, I should have said thank you. I should have just recognized like, man, thank you. Like, thank you for the compliment, and I was so focused on the result. I didn't even recognize it. Like I got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
You said, right. You're like,
yeah,
dude, you missed it.
And just to like kind of talk a little bit more about that situation is, you were so focused on the results there that you forgot about the development, and you forgot that like getting up in front of everybody and teaching what you taught was one of your major goals, and one of your definite major purposes was to be able to do that. And you forgot about that. You know what I mean? We all go through that. And it, as you're even talking about this too, it almost reminds me of like the old sports saying, stick to the fundamentals. You know what I mean? If you stick to the fundamentals, those core things, and remember those core things, that why you're doing things, why you're developing, it's not necessarily for the result, but what's beyond that, right? Your definite major purpose. And really remembering that day to day with that vision on the big goal, is huge. It's huge. And it's so important. And just remembering to do the ins and outs, the fundamentals every single day, for sure.
Yeah. And it also takes the fun out of the work too, right? You say fundamentals, and then I hear the word fun and my brain goes to, one common issue, problem, trap, error that people make when they do this, when they focus on the results and they hyper focus on it, is it makes things just not fun.
Totally.
It is just not fun. Growth is not fun when you're so hyper focused on the results and you've placed too much value on that. It strips the fun from it,
And then that's when burnout happens too, right? Yep. That's when burnout happens, when you're only focused on the result. Guess what?
It's a mental health issue.
It is. But also the result's not coming every single day. If you have a really big goal, you're not going to get the result every day. You're working towards that result or working towards that goal. So if you're not getting that result every single day, is every day just miserable? No, it can't be. You have to find fun in the work, in the journey, in the fundamentals, for sure.
Absolutely.
Such a great episode. Loved it. If you weren't able to listen to any of these episodes, please go back and listen to them, especially that one. If you have maybe a little bit of a harder time focusing on the day-to-day work and the importance there. Okay. Episode number 360 from Tuesday was formulas. Dallas talked about the importance of formulas. Loved it. This was a great episode too. Dal, go ahead.
So like, Pythagorean theorem, quadratic equation. I was dropping some an older version of me, experiences in the things that I would teach to high school students all the time, right? Like there was a formula to provide a specific solution to a problem that they faced in the math classroom. And I also pointed out that like life isn't the same. Like there's not like this one formula you can plug in to solve all your problems, But what I want to point out here is that like it's up to you to decide what that formula is for that season, for that problem that you're currently facing. The formulas change, but it's up to you to decide what the formula is through trial and error, and learning about solutions and implementing those things, right? And then designing a day-to-day routine around that and like sticking to it, it's like, I think I even went through a progression of like proper sleep, plus a nutritious meal in the morning, plus, an exercise, a routine, physical exercise routine in the morning, breaking a sweat, plus reading, plus, whatever. For each person, it looks different. But like for me, my formula is getting to bed by 9:30, right? Plus waking up at the sound of my alarm at 5:15, plus not connecting to my phone and emails and all that garbage prior to going to work out, plus coming back and hydrating, plus eating breakfast. For me, I'm not an intermittent faster. I have to eat. And again, I could change that about myself, but right now I recognize that part of my formula is a necessity for me to be my best right now, just given the things that I'm doing prior to that. And so we all have a formula. My point was we all have a formula that's going to work best and maximize the return or give us the best solution for the day, meaning give us the best version of us for all the things we're trying to tackle.
Yeah.
And we got to have formulas, dude.
Totally.
Like, it's not by chance that people grow and figure things out. It's not by chance that people become their best. It's not luck.
No.
It's not that they connected to the right person and got lucky in an opportunity. No, growth is strategic. It happens by design, not by luck. And formulas, creating formulas for growth, look different from season to season, but it's up to you to figure that out and implement that right formula for that season.
Totally. Oh man, I'm going through that right now. I tried to implement, like, talking about formulas. I've tried for probably the past year and a half, probably, to implement formulas that others were using that I thought was going to work for me. You know what I mean? And I had to fine tune those formulas. Talking about morning routine here. You brought it up, so I'll bring it up too. Talking about morning routine, I was trying to do what Tyler was doing. I was trying to do what Dallas was doing every morning, but that formula wasn't the formula for me in that particular season. Right. So I've figured that out, what morning routine works best for me. And that's what I'm following right now. And I'm seeing those massive results.
And it's bits and pieces of other people's formulas, right?
For sure. I definitely
have a great
have
actionable and a great piece of insight.
Yeah. I definitely have grabbed pieces from Dallas's morning routine. I've grabbed pieces from Tyler's morning routine and kind of created my own. So a challenge that I would like to give to everybody is just do something. Try a new formula. If you're having a hard time with your morning routine or whatever it is in business, my challenge would be figure out a formula. Try to just figure out something, whether it's wake up at 5, no phone till 6, going to the gym in between, drinking water, whatever it is. Figure out that formula and give it a go. Give it a try. Start something new if you're having a hard time with it, and give it a go and figure out what doesn't work and what does work. Yeah. Because that, like, through experience and through trial is how you're going to figure out the best formula for you. And once you do figure it out, it really just totally propels you to that next level.
Yep. We could talk about this for days. Dude, sometimes it's just not sometimes you're implementing a part of the formula during the wrong time of the day. Maybe it just needs to happen at a different time of the day. It's not that the principle doesn't work. It's not that the habit doesn't work. It's not that you don't work. It's just like, given your circumstance, your season, your day, the way things function, your, priorities and everything else, like, maybe it just needs to happen at a different time of the day. There's just an ongoing process of problem solving here to tweak these things, copy and paste the things that work for everybody else and making it your own, and then getting that formula fine-tuned to what it is you need and what's producing the best you and the best day within all your priorities. And it's fun, man. Like, it's fun to figure that out and quit. I guess that's my last piece, is just like, don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of being stressed about figuring it out. Have fun in figuring it out. Test some things out. Experiment, like take a risk on something that's got a positive yield that produces a positive yield for other people. And if it works for you, great. Like, modify it however you need to. And if it doesn't, it doesn't mean it's bad. Like, grab something that's similar or a little bit different and try it. But have fun with it. Have fun with figuring that formula out.
Totally. I could talk about this for days, 4 days. I really could, because it's something that I've just recently gone through and I've dialed in my formula, and it has made the biggest impact on my physical health, my mental health, my work flows and my work processes, and how much I'm getting done there. It's been awesome. So yeah, definitely play around with those formulas, figure out what works best for you, and then implement it and be disciplined to do it every single day, because it's just going to continue to help you and help you become that best person. Awesome. Moving on to episode from Wednesday, cognitive reframing. Again, this is a great episode. You also talked about this on our Mindset Monthly with the Multifamily Mindset as well.
Yeah.
So huge. This is a huge mindset technique that can honestly just change the way you go about difficulties. So go ahead, Dal.
I was actually thinking about this prior to our call. You and I actually talked about a really important goal of yours, and you were almost talking about it in the sense of being on the outside looking in. And then we walked through our own little cognitive reframing, and it was like, you and I both, you most importantly, excuse me.
You're good. Get some water.
Oh my gosh.
No stress.
You and I came, oh my word. You're going to have to cut this out, dude.
No, I'm leaving it. No worries.
Oh,
it's raw. It's authentic.
You think I should have water next to me? But you and I you more importantly came to the conclusion that you're actually on the inside. You were already on the inside. You were on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And that was cognitive reframing 101. And, you got a little bit emotional.
I did.
You didn't break down in tears, but it was positive. It was positive emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just a prime example of walking through this step-by-step process and why it's so beneficial to hone this skill set in, because it's really the key to figuring out or flipping the script and realizing that life really is constantly happening for us, not to us. And it's our decision to make. I give the situation in here, and really rather than go through the whole situation, I just want to walk through the step-by-step process of cognitive reframing. And that is, all of us have thoughts about situations that we're in. And sometimes those thoughts can get away from us and we tell ourselves things that aren't true. We start to develop a negative story, right? Something that we all fall victim to sometimes if we're not careful. And let's face it, sometimes we're just not careful. Sometimes we just get emotional. And when that happens, the next step the next step is to recognize that we've done that, which is hard. If you're sad, if you're feeling inadequate, if you're feeling negative feelings from a situation that you've been in, a lot of the times the solution is to just shift your mentality about the situation. Right. But again, a lot easier said than done. But it's really important here that when this happens to your brain, what will happen here is your brain's going to say, hey, it's going to send itself on a mission to go find every reason to prove your thought correct.
Right.
It's going to go prove yourself right. Right.
What your brain's designed to do.
Yeah. It's what your brain's designed to do.
Yeah.
And your job here, when you're feeling negative, sad, scared, inadequate, whatever, from the situation you've been in, is to go out and find information that doesn't support that initial thought. Right.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to change the story, is you quit supporting that negative thought. And you have the power to quit supporting that negative thought. You can change the narrative. You can change the story you're telling yourself.
Totally.
And so you go and you find information that doesn't support that original thought. The example I gave was, feeling bad about your friends not inviting you to dinner and creating a negative story around that. Well, evidence that doesn't support that original thought of my friends don't like me, I'm a loser, is you would go to the truth, which is my friends have told me several times that they think I'm fun. Then you find other data of moments when your friends laughed with you and, pointed out a great quality about you, and that you were invited, when you were invited to something. And now you're getting back to the reality of the situation. You're finding evidence that doesn't support that original idea. And what ends up, the reason this is so important is because feelings follow thoughts.
Yeah.
And so when you start to change that story, you're not just changing the story, but you're literally changing emotion.
Yeah.
You're like an integral part in changing your own emotion. And
only you can do that.
Exactly. I mean, no matter how many times somebody wants to swoop in and tell you how awesome you are and everything else, it's until you believe that, until you've changed your anatomy, until you've changed your biology or your mental, right? Until you've changed that process, that thought, the neural part, the neurological wiring that needs to happen, it's really hard to make that change. We have to get into a state of better feeling, And now it doesn't mean you can't take action while you feel like shit. That's not what I'm saying.
No, that's the big
thing. What I'm saying is cognitive reframing does do that. It helps you to produce better emotions and get to the truth of the situation a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because again, we lie to ourselves, and
which is going to lead to better action.
And exactly, because the formula is thoughts equal feelings, and feelings produce our actions.
Yes.
And so it's just diving deep into that process. And
love this. I love this principle. Do you mind if I add a little here?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you talked about this on the Mindset Monthly call, I gave the same input, but we talk about, hey, you need to make this switch. You need to make this change. Right. It's up to you. And I think the biggest takeaway from that call is when you explained how to do that. And how you do that is that moment when you're feeling that, when you think that negative thought. For the example that we're using is, oh, my friends didn't invite me to dinner. In that moment, this is something that Marcus Aurelius writes about, and it's ancient philosophy. Is in that moment you get to decide what emotions. It's a split second, but you are ultimately the one that controls whether your mind wants to go, oh, they don't like me, I'm a loser, that's why they're not inviting me, they're never going to invite me to anything ever again, or to the positive is, oh no, they actually love me, I know that they love me, I've been invited to many things before, no big deal, right?
Yep.
In that moment, you get to decide. So keep that in mind, that you are in charge of that. You are in charge of what emotions you want to feel there. That is ultimately, like what Dallas just said, is that emotion is going to lead to the action, whatever action you take from that.
And so sometimes it's like, does it even really matter that I was invited?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes it's like even just breaking it down to the reality of like, does it even matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what impact does going or not going have?
Totally.
You know, like that's part of the conversation as well. And so it's a dynamic conversation, but it's just getting to the root of like, what really matters?
Yeah.
You know,
stop. And another thing,
happiness matters, like fulfillment matters, staying on the path of fulfillment and happiness and success matters. Talking to yourself in a positive light matters.
Yeah.
You know, like whether or not you went to dinner with your friends doesn't really matter.
No.
Like it does, but it doesn't.
Another thing that stuck out to me from the Mindset Monthly call in lines with what we're talking about here that was discussed is that to stop and notice rather than overthink, right? In that moment where you're thinking, am I going to take this negative or am I going to take this positive? Don't overthink things there too. Stop and notice and live in reality and make decisions and feel emotions and take action based on that, not this these made up things that you've decided. So great episode.
Here's something to remember too, dude.
Cognitive reframing, man. It's such a powerful tool.
Oh, it's like the number one skill I continue to practice every day.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most crucial. I think it's one of the most crucial. When you talk about mindset, when you talk about mindset, I would say cognitive reframing is one of the most impactful, most important skills you can learn.
Agreed.
But what I was going to say is this is one to remember. You are not your emotion, right? Like you are you.
Yeah.
Like emotions are things that you feel, but like you are not your emotion. So if you're scared or sad, like sometimes the emotion comes prior to even knowing what the thought was that produced it.
Right.
This happens. And I don't want to go crazy here and get like crazy deep, but I think it's just important to remind everybody, like you are not your emotion. You are you, and you have everything inside of you to get yourself out of a bad situation that you've created or that you've been a part of within your environment. And just because you're feeling something doesn't mean that's what you are. Right. That's just something you're feeling. That's a sensation. That's not who you are. You're not a scared person. You're just feeling the emotion of fear in a moment. Anyways, I just felt it.
It's very valuable. Very, very valuable. Such a golden nugget for sure. And then the episode, let's move on. Episode from Thursday. Look back with purpose. This is the episode that dropped this morning. I was able to edit it last night. So this is the one that's freshest on my brain. This is a great episode to look back with purpose. I love this. Go ahead, Dal. I'll let you explain.
Yeah, this actually came from, I was telling you about her. I've never had heard of her until just this week, but she's amazing, dude. I dove deep into research and just her career in endurance athletics and just feats that she's accomplished. Her name's Katie Stotts. And dude, she rode from Europe to the United States across the Atlantic Ocean by herself.
Wow.
70 days.
Holy.
She rode all by herself in a rowboat. No follow boat.
Whoa.
Nothing. She saw one other person, a Venezuelan fishing boat on day 64. And that was the only other people she ever saw. She said she saw some dolphins. They swam with her for a while. She saw some sharks. She'd scrub the barnacles off the side of the boat to like pass time. She listened to a bunch of books. But she's done some pretty amazing things, dude. Wow. And this was actually from her interview that she did that I was listening to. She said, it's important to understand that every mile you have done gives you confidence to go another mile. What she was drawing on was, she said when she focused on the 3,000 mile mark, this was the number she was referring to. And I don't know if this was to the row or some other endurance event that she was a part of, but she said, if you focus on 3,000 miles, it's so daunting. You can't, you literally like can't do it almost. Like that's why most people don't do it. She said when she got to the halfway mark of the row, for a brief second, she started to have this conversation with herself that was like, I've exerted every ounce of energy that I have, and I'm literally only halfway. I can't go any further. Like I've done everything I can. And so she started to calculate like how far she had left to go. And it was daunting, right? She said, and then in that moment, she shifted her mentality and she was like, I'm just going to focus on 1 mile. I'm just going to focus on 1 mile. And so she's like, I can do 1 mile. So she would go 1 mile and then she'd be like, I'm just going to focus on the next mile. And she just focused on doing 1 mile 3,000 times. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that's a total mental shift, right?
Yeah.
You were no longer looking at this gap. You were looking at steps. You were looking at checkpoints. You were just 1 foot in front of the other, being where your feet are. Focus on that. But she said a lot of the times in growth, people have doubt. They talk to themselves negatively about the future and give themselves a million reasons why they can't do something. And they stay stuck in that conversation. So stuck in that conversation that they don't even stop for 5 seconds to look back and go, you know what? It's probably worth my time to go through and note and recognize every single thing that I've done, that I said, or at some point said, I don't think I can do this. And it's like, I just thought that was a powerful actionable for all of us to go do, because every single person's in the same boat.
Yeah.
My wife and I, our conversation typically goes the route of, things always have a way of working out, don't they? Right? Like, because we always doubt. And it's like, we have that conversation. It was like, oh, shit, we seem to figure it out. We figured it out.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, it does because you figure it out. It does. Not because
you go 1 mile at a time.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. So just kind of pull it all back together. And it's a topic and a principle that you speak a lot about. It's a concept and a principle that Tyler speaks a lot about, is have that definite major purpose. That's 3,000 miles, right? We're using this example. Have that definite major purpose, 3,000 miles, got to accomplish it. But then focused on that next mile, that next mile, that next mile, that next mile. If you keep doing that, you get lost in the work, you get lost in development, bringing it all the way back to the episode on Monday, talking about development and putting an emphasis there. It's following each step and recognizing what it is that you're doing, because that's going to get you to your next big, whatever your definite major purpose is. And I love that example. So powerful. 3,000 miles is daunting. Taking down a 220 unit apartment building and getting that closed and raising money for that, going through all the legal paperwork and due diligence, that's daunting. There's a lot there. Yep. But if you focus on one thing at a time, what's the next step? What's the next step? How can I do that? Then you'll get to your goal, and which would be closing that property. Right. So I think this is such a good one to pull actionables out of, that example that you gave of her rowing across.
And she wasn't doing it for her, dude. That's the cool thing too. Like, just to kind of wrap it all up.
Yeah.
She does it for clean drinking water for the world. Like, so many people are under, they don't have opportunity, and it's not even just opportunity. Like, some people just literally don't have resources for living.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like she said, she's like, you need 2 things to, like, you need air and you need water. And it's like, some people don't have that. And so for those that don't have the opportunity to go fight for that at the level I have, like, that's why I go do that. You know, that row is not just for her. Like, yeah, she benefits from it, but like, she's like, I do these things for other people. And that's, you know,
that's awesome. It's all these
why
principles.
I can get through them. Yeah. Is because I'm not doing it for me.
It's all these principles that we're constantly talking about. Have a purpose that's bigger and greater than self, and you can accomplish so much more. Just another principle there that we could talk about from that experience. No, that's awesome. Dal, is there anything else you want to add regarding these 4 episodes this week, 5 episodes?
No, I just appreciate everybody jumping on the Daily Drip and, you know, giving us the opportunity to go through and review this thing every Saturday, to make it more actionable. Really, the only thing I'd invite all the time is better action. Take better action. Like do your own due diligence on this stuff by taking better action. Don't equip yourself with information. Weaponize yourself via action.
And experience. The experience that you're getting there is way more valuable than any knowledge or book you can read. Dallas, I just want to reiterate that what you said as we wrap up here is, if you're not implementing the things that Dallas is teaching, these actionables, what are you doing? What are you doing? Definitely be implementing these actionable items that Dallas gives us every week, because they seriously can just continue to help you become your best self. And like they have for me, they can change your life. So like truly, honestly, sincerely, these principles that Dallas talks about, changing your mindset can really change your life. So Dallas, thank you again, man, for taking the time, not only to jump on with me and rehash all these episodes, pull out actionable items, but to also write and study to put out these episodes. Dallas and I were talking about his process, about how he puts together the daily drips, and to condense his process down, is it's a lot. He does a lot of studying. This isn't something that he just does on a whim or for fun. He takes this very serious, and he studies a lot, and it's just great content with great actionable. So Dallas, I love you, my man. Thank you so much for all the hard work you put into this podcast.
Thank you so much.
It wouldn't be what it is without you, dude. So thank you.
We hope you find it motivating, inspiring, but those are the two smallest things that we hope it is for you. We hope it's action based. We hope it helps simplify the messiness of growing. I mean, and really, like at the end of the day, like life. Totally. I mean, that's really what our aim is to simplify these high level principles to a point that it is so digestible that you have no other option than to do something about it. So,
absolutely. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Growthcast Extended Cut, where we review all of the daily drips that Dallas dropped this last week. If you're not following, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you haven't left us a review, definitely please do leave us a review. If you haven't rated, also please rate us and share the podcast with those that you think could benefit from listening to Dallas's wisdom daily, and then Tyler on Fridays, and then us wrapping up the week on Saturdays. Dal, thanks again, my man. Everybody listening, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day and your weekend, whenever it is that you're listening to this. Take care, y'all.